Hello, it's John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now, the MMA edition. Hello, fight fans, and welcome to another edition of Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock, and today we're taking a look at some of the aftermath from UFC 165 after Jon Jones put forth one of the most remarkable performances of his career. Plus, I go one-on-one with the Predator Patrick Cote, and I'm going to be stepping in for John Ramdeen to join Robin Black for this week's edition of 3 Rounds. Later on in the shift, UFC middleweight champion Chris Weidman and Phil Davis test out the new Xbox One. But first, we're bringing you this week's Newsmakers. This past weekend, Jon Jones defeated Alexander Gustafsson to earn his 10th consecutive victory and surpassed Tito Ortiz's record of light heavyweight title defenses in a bout that many are calling a Fight of the Year candidate, while Jones put forth a gutsy performance that silenced his critics. There is a possibility that he may have to do it again in a rematch.
At UFC 165, Jon Jones broke Tito Ortiz's long-standing light heavyweight title defense record in what some are calling the greatest title fight of all time.
This is one of those fights where both guys felt like they were going to die. You feel like you're going to, I don't know if I can continue. I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I got one more round in me. If they even knew what round it was, one of those kind of fights. When a round ends and the whole place is on their feet with a standing ovation, and they did that for all 5 rounds tonight. It was amazing. I love being a part of things like this, It's so fun.
Bones has blasted through the weight division, making it look easy, but Gustafsson gave him the test every great champion needs.
Man, I tell you what, I've been asking for a dogfight for a long time, and I finally got that dogfight I've been looking for. Tonight was a blessing in so many ways.
After surviving Belfort's armbar, destroying Chael Sonnen with his toe hanging off, and now surviving a war with Gustafsson, it is clear Jones has the heart of a champion.
This guy's got heart, chin. He's got it all to get busted up in those first 2 rounds and then come on the way that he did at the end of the fight. He's a special fighter, man. He's a special fighter.
In a fight heavily promoted on the basis of height and reach, it certainly lived up to the hype, offering action no one saw coming.
Yeah, it was a great fight. And again, it was one of those exciting, great fights because it's what nobody expected. Things happen that you did not expect to happen. And when that does, it freaks you out. You go crazy. And that's why I lost score. I stopped scoring a fight.
The big question after the bout was, will we see the rematch?
First of all, with a fight like this, you got to go home. Let things play out. Jon Jones isn't going to want to hear the word fight for 2-3 weeks. I guarantee you that. So we wait. We wait and we see what happens. And maybe it is Glover. Maybe it's a rematch. I don't know. Who doesn't want to see this rematch? You know what I mean?
And that takes us to this week's Tweet of the Week, courtesy of the formidable challenger Alexander Gustafsson, who thanked the fans in Toronto and after 25 minutes of war, met Jon Jones at the hospital to take this very memorable photo. And it seems it's a question of when and not if these two will meet again inside of the UFC octagon. Renan Barão recorded his 21st consecutive victory with a stunning TKO victory over Eddie Wineland on Saturday. Despite this tremendous accomplishment, UFC President Dana White still feels that his interim bantamweight champion isn't getting the respect he deserves.
He doesn't get enough credit for the record he has and what this guy is capable of doing. And it's not just like he's undefeated and he goes to a decision and outpoints you. This dude f***ing destroys you. You know what I mean? 8 years, over 8 years now, 21 fights in a row. That is impressive in this sport.
135-pound champion Dominick Cruz has not fought since October of 2011, and recently Dana White stated that if Cruz does not return to action, he could be stripped of the title. The last time we saw this was in 2005 when Frank Mir was stripped of the heavyweight gold. UFC lightweight Mike Ricci was recently in our Fight Network studios, and here's what he had to say about the subject.
I think it's great to have interim titles. We're in a sport where we train at such a high pace and high risk, so you can't just strip a champion of his belt because of an injury. Interim titles, I think, are great, to hold the title up for the time being, but unless a fighter's out indefinitely, they shouldn't be stripped of their title.
It's one of the most anticipated rematches to date as Chris Weidman will take on Anderson Silva, and that is set to take place December the 28th at UFC 168. We caught up with the middleweight champion who gave us his thoughts on his first title defense.
He knows now he has to respect my hands. You know, he paid the ultimate price for it with his consciousness. Joe Rogan said it's a good line, but. You know, so yeah, there's more things that he's gonna have to worry about in this fight that maybe he didn't respect me enough in the last one. So I'm excited to go out there and do it. I don't really care what he says, you know, especially in the after fight interviews and stuff like that. He just got knocked out for the first time in his life. When he was saying there's not gonna be a rematch and this and that, I knew there was gonna be a rematch right away.
The UFC 168 World Tour kicked off this week as it featured the Weidman and Silva 2 press conference. Here's what the champion and challenger had to say leading into their fight in December.
Before the last fight, I was still, you know, nursing an injury and I wasn't able to improve. And right now, I'm able to still work out and improve every day. So that's really the only difference. As far as strategy, it's kind of the same for every one of my fights. Just, you know, walk forward and I try, you know, to see. It's a chess game out there. You know, if he thinks I'm doing one thing, I'm going to do the other.
I have 9 more fights, and my focus is my rematch for Chris. And the new wonders is come, bro. Trust me.
EMFC is getting set for their next show October 5th, and company CEO Mark Pavlich stopped by the Fight Network studios to chat about what the MFC is doing to broaden its fan base, as well as to discuss the current landscape of mixed martial arts and where he sees it heading over the next couple of years.
In 5 years from now, we'll be in the exact same situation. We'll be sitting here like this 5 years from now, and it'll be the exact same way. And well, because we're still a niche, we're still a very large clique, but outside that clique, everybody that's holding the camera right now, ask them if their fathers watch mixed martial arts, and if they do, how much do they watch it, right? They watch it on a regular basis. They watch it once every 6 months basis. That's the demographic we need to get. We need to get the demographic that watches CFL, NFL football, and then puts a hat on the weekend and goes watch the Maximum Fighting Championship or another MMA event. And that's something that we really need to focus on. We're focusing too much on the demographic we already have and not the demographic we don't have.
The last time we saw Patrick Cote was at UFC 158, where he etched out a decision over Bobby Volker. The Predator returns to action, this time as a coach on the Ultimate Fighter Nations, where he will be opposite Kyle Noke. I caught up with Cote to discuss his role on the Ultimate Fighter Canada versus Australia.
What was your immediate reaction when they asked you to do this season of the Ultimate Fighter with Kyle Noke? Was it something you jumped at, or was there apprehension?
Oh, no, I say it right away. I say it right away. You know, I always say that if they were asking me to do it again as a contestant, I'll go. So now I'm going to coach it, so that's even better. I'm not going to be stuck in the house, so it's good. But, you know, I'm very honored to first, I'm going to represent my country because it's TUF Nation, Canada against Australia. But in the second way, it's the UFC gave me all the confidence to drive my team, you know, to have a winner. Now, finally, a Canadian fighter as a winner, as the Ultimate Fighter. I went through the final when I was a contestant, but I came up short. But this time we're going to work hard to have finally a Canadian winner of this season.
And have you been told when the fight's going to take place with Kyle Noke?
No, I don't know when. I don't know where, but when's going to be probably in April next year. We're going to start to shoot the season at the end of October. After that, it's going to be air on TV at the beginning of January. Right. And around April, it's going to be the final. It's going to be live. We're going to find the Ultimate Fighter of the TUF Nation and the fight me against Kyle Noke.
And where is the Fighter House? Where is all this being filmed?
It's going to be in, close to Montreal, a little bit up north Montreal. I can say it.
So I bet when you got the phone call that we're not filming this in Australia, good for you. Were happy about that?
For me, it doesn't matter. That was more for my coaching staff. It's easier for them. But for me, you know, I don't really care. I think for them it's gonna be harder because they're gonna come in the winter season, gonna have snow, it's gonna be cold. But you know, to be honest with you, I don't really care about their problem. My problem is to lead my team the best as I can to have a winner in my team about this season.
If you're able to let us know, can you tell us who's going to be part of your coaching staff?
Yeah, it's going to be Fabio Holanda, black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Murilo Bustamante. Going to have David Zibelman, my wrestling coach. He went to the Olympic in Beijing. And it's going to be my striking coach, Cruz, two-time Morocco champion, two-time named the best international coach in Thailand as a Muay Thai coach. So we're gonna build a really, really solid team, and I'm looking to have a special guest during the season. I'm working on that with the production, but it's gonna be a MMA legend and a former middleweight UFC champion. You're gonna have to watch it to know.
And Robin, I'm very much looking forward to the debut of Tough Nations, because I think you are perhaps got your ear to the ground the most out of any analyst when it comes to the up-and-coming Canadian talents that are really going to get a spotlight with this show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know all of the guys that have already been accepted to the show, but they signed contracts that they'll have to pay $5 million if anybody knows, so I know nothing.
Yeah, and even in Canadian funds for our American viewers, that's still a lot of money.
That's like $800,000.
3 rounds, Robin. You're stuck with me for this week's show. What are we chatting about?
I don't know. John Ramdeen is ill, and you and I like hanging out and talking about stuff, so he can watch from
Guy
home.
gets a big gig with K1, and he just big times us. Well, find out next what we're going to chat about without John Ramdeen as we continue on Fight News Now. Welcome back to Fight News Now. It's John Pollock here, and this is 3 rounds with Robin Black, and we are coming off a fight that I think is going to be remembered for eternity at this point, Robin. We are so fresh off this fight, and we're quick to look at fights and kind of where it stacks up in the history books. But let's first of all just chat about the individual performances of these two, Jon Jones and Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson was just such a long underdog going into this fight, and what in particular in his game plan really stood out for you that might be a blueprint for future light heavyweights here in trying to figure out the puzzle that is Jon Jones?
Yeah, it was crazy. He literally had no chance in the universe. You know, like, that's so weird, and you look after and how well he did. There was a few things. Definitely, like, you know, his kickboxing obviously was always on a good level, and we believed that he could stand in there with him. You know, that takedown defense, how he elevated that takedown defense was just really, really spectacular. But, you know, one thing that kind of blew my mind, I just personally, you know, and I'm reasonably educated on these things, I personally wrote off the whole marketing idea of height and reach and length. That it really, you know, Jon Jones was not defined by his reach. It wasn't even the biggest aspect of what he used. It was just an aspect of all his gifts. But, you know, when it came right down to it, oddly, that was probably one of the biggest things. You know, there's so many surprises in it. Like I said, we didn't think he had a chance, and we didn't think that whole reach thing really made a lot of sense. In the end, when you're standing in there, and normally he's doing things that he would normally do, keeping him at range, and when he would act the way he would act, instead of leaning back slightly and pivoting off and not getting hit, he'd lean back slightly and get smashed in the face. So reach really played a huge role, and if that's the case, other guys can't mimic it because they don't have it.
It was also the speed and timing of that spinning elbow that he used often within that fight, particularly where you can break this whole fight down into that 4th round.
Yeah.
Where going into that final minute, that was certainly Gustafsson's round, and that spinning elbow really started that tide turn in round number 4. Then we saw a big flying knee to end that round. I mean, that spinning elbow of Jon Jones, it was very calculated and landed often on Gustafsson.
Yeah, if we're still talking about what Gustafsson did special, one was everybody else is unconscious from that elbow. Everybody else drops down and has nothing left in him. But he drove that himself so hard that he survived it. And for Jones, the great spectacular thing we saw out of him was that ability to withstand damage and that ability to never fade. And, you know, we talked about this a lot in the, you know, immediately after the fight, but you got a guy who has all these other gifts. We know all the things he does great. What we didn't know was how much heart he had. And him proving that, to me, almost made him even more unbeatable. But you're right, Gustafsson was ducking into that spinning elbow. Obviously, they had prepared for it. The spinning elbow would come, and you might want to flee the range, and instead he would get in close, so the spinning elbow would kind of bump off the side of his head. But as he fatigued and as he slowed down, that one in the 4th, that was probably, you're right, that was probably the fight.
I think as well, another interesting point that you go back to the drawing board if you're Jon Jones' camp is the wrestling here. I think that surprised everybody. Not only the takedown defense of Alexander Gustafsson, but taking down Jones. I mean, we saw both offense and defensive wrestling out of Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, and man, there's so many cool aspects to figuring out a world-class elite fight, and that's why it was so amazing. And some of it goes back to what were you doing 8 and 9 and 10 weeks ago? And if they're laying out their game plan, we got to watch this kind of tape, we got to prep these kind of specific positions, we got to deal with this kind of stuff. As they were laying out where to allot their training time, I bet, well, wrestling, we're so far ahead of him, let's just not work on that a lot. Meanwhile, you got another guy who's working on it so hard since the time he lost to Phil Davis, and you drop here, and he rises up to here. You're not prepared for it. You're expecting one thing, he gives you another. There was just so much going on. It was so cool.
It seemed that the unanimous reaction afterwards was, let's see round 6 between these two. Is that the fight that you go to next for these two, providing that both are ready to go on a similar timetable after this fight? I mean, these two went a hard 25 minutes. Glover Teixeira is kind of just waiting there in the on-deck circle right now. Where do you think they go? Because Dana White seemed to be into it, and then now that a few days have passed, he's kind of, well, we're going to see where things go. I don't know if it makes sense or not.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things he's going to see where it goes is the number. Like, how did this one do?
Sure.
If this one already did great, and now everybody's pumped, you do it. And there's different things. I mean, one is, what does a promoter want? A promoter wants the maximum amount of people buying a show humanly possible, going to the show, buying stuff, following it on TV, becoming fans, and this fight could do that. If it already did a big number, he'll want it.
It probably didn't when you look at it, coming 7 days after the Mayweather-Canelo fight, and the fact that there was not a whole lot of interest in this fight going in, but certainly coming out of it, that rematch is going to do appreciably more business.
Yeah, the conventional wisdom is if it's a fight that's that close and the champ loses, you rematch it. And even Anderson Silva, being so dominant, loses his fight, you give him that rematch. He deserves it. He's earned it. When a challenger almost gets there but not quite, you don't always do it. But this one was so cool, and it was such a special fight that you feel like you should do it. But there are other guys waiting.
You are always hesitant to put the greatest label onto anything. I know you're a little gun-shy to say this was the greatest fight ever. Are you willing, now that Jon Jones, he has broken Tito Ortiz's title defense record, are you willing to say that this guy is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time? Or is the sample size of his fights just not at a level right now? I mean, he doesn't have the fights Anderson Silva does. Where does Jon Jones rank at this point?
Yeah, I like sample size. You know, you're right. That's a really good point. That's the argument. Is he the greatest of all time? When you look at what he's been doing, you want to say he is. There are people that will argue Fedor, and one time I said Fedor was not the greatest of all time. I literally received death threats for that. So you have to be very careful with that one. And then you've got Anderson Silva. George St-Pierre has been incredibly dominant. He is absolutely in the conversation. If his career continues like this, as young as he is, he will be considered the greatest of all time. I don't know if I can say that yet, but he's certainly up there.
And that's amazing when you look at, to me, one of the most mind-blowing statistics is the fact that this guy is 26 years of age at this point. Where will he be at 30, providing he doesn't have any major injury or setbacks in his career? I mean, we very well could be watching someone that will never be duplicated in this sport.
And that's kind of what I assume. He feels like Tiger Woods, or he feels like Wayne Gretzky. He seems to be that kind of guy. And to be able to show that kind of toughness and heart and drive and all of that stuff, as well as his skill, he's got to be considered up there.
There you go. That's our 2 cents. We're coming back with more, including this week's viral video, which is can't miss, as Fight News Now continues. Welcome back to Fight News Now. This weekend, we've got some kickboxing action for you, with Glory 10 taking place on Saturday at midnight Eastern. But right now, it is time to send things over to Priscilla Carapan for this week's installment of The Shift.
There's all kinds of hype surrounding the release of Xbox One, and what better way to test it out than have Phil Davis and UFC middleweight champion Chris Weidman duke it out on Killer Instinct.
Coming to your home in 2013, only on Xbox One! Ultra Combo!
Have you played this before, Chris?
I've never played this game before. I'd say he's a minus 230 favorite right now.
Yeah. Minus 230?
He wanted the Thunder Indian character, so... Oh, look, he started early. He's cheating me. Hang on.
Yeah.
Right, hang on, let me get my... Hang on.
Clearly, he's... Yeah.
Wait, I wasn't even ready.
He's now a minus 800 favorite.
All right, that's it.
Okay, you got to first protect yourself somehow. Yeah, this isn't looking good, man. I think I'm going to hang out with the winner over here. Clearly, you played this game before.
Never played this game before.
But are you...
I'm what you call a video game expertise.
Yeah, and clearly Chris is not.
No. Yeah, he keeps just jabbing. He's tapping out.
Yeah, he's jabbing.
Not die. Would you die already?
So you're working that jab you've been training.
That was you. That was you.
Resume. Oh, see, now you're making that low kick work. That might not be a bad idea. Just soften up his legs. Right?
Taking out his legs first. Now I'm charging him. Upper body.
Yo, knock it off.
Look at it. Oh, I don't know what that is.
See, yes. Yeah, dropping low, softening up the body. Wow, you're a quick learner. Low kick. Stick with the low kick. We have a winner here. How do you feel? You want to thank your team? You want to thank?
I just want to thank.
Sorry. Oh, this.
I want to thank Xbox One for making me the winner. I want to thank Thunder because he's the best player. He's the best character.
You are destroying this man right now.
Woo! What was that?
Wow. Do you have any hope in this?
Yeah, I'm about to win. It's not over yet. I just gotta figure what this guy keeps doing. Like, what is that?
Have you tried the left hook when he's just goofing around?
Oh, I like that. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Not that. Yeah.
Nice.
Winner.
Congratulations to the winner and to the man who did not win but is still the middleweight champion of the world.
Of the entire world.
That's it for the shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And now it is my favorite time of the week. It is time for this week's viral video. And this week it features a hidden gem from our UFC 165 pre-fight party. I have no idea the identity of that one individual. That wraps things up for this week's edition of Fight News Now. I want to thank Chris Weidman, Mike Ricci, and Patrick Cote for stopping by. Don't forget, you can catch the MMA report this Thursday on FightNetwork.com. I'm going to be joined by Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler. On behalf of Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, the entire Fight Network crew, I'm John Pollock, and thank you very much for watching.
The undisputed